Good afternoon, Father Joe. How are you today?
Very good. As usual, I have my cup of Joe here and happy to send blessings out to everybody, anybody who might pick this piece up on their computer. So welcome and blessings to all.
Great to spend time with you, as it always is, to just talk about the issues of the day, what's going on at Casa Esther, what's going on in the world, the work of Casa Esther to bring goodness to the world and bring beauty to the world. And today, I think it would be great if we would spend a few minutes talking about a huge change that took place in March of this year with Pope Francis's announcement about renouncing the Catholic Church renouncing the 550-year-old doctrine of discovery. And I would wager that 90% of Americans would pass an essay test on even knowing what the doctrine of discovery is. But it is affecting us every day and affects people all around the world. The doctrine was created through papal bulls in 1493, 1 year after Columbus sailed the ocean blue, when Pope Alexander VI created this principle. It's a principle in public international law, which really sits on a foundation of both legal and religious concept that's been used for centuries to justify Christian colonial conquest. And it advances the idea that European people, back then, European people, their culture and their religion are superior to all others, and that Christianity is superior to all other spiritual paths that people may walk. Last year, after Pope Francis visited the First Nations people in Canada in 2022, in March of this year, he announced the renouncement of that doctrine of discovery, which was a very, very big deal. The words renouncement and the word repudiation were both used in the release. I want to just read this sentence that describes what Pope Francis said in March 30th of this year. Very significant. The Church repudiates those concepts that fail to recognize the inherent human rights of indigenous peoples, including what has become known as a legal and political doctrine of discovery. The Church acknowledges that these papal bulls did not adequately reflect the equal dignity and rights of indigenous people, unquote. So this is a really big deal. I know that you, Father Joe, personally in Casa Esther, support and work with indigenous people in Wisconsin and recognize the equal dignity and rights of all humans. But this is a really big deal, and I'd appreciate if you have any reflections on this very significant, like 550 years of history. Wow.
Yes, as a Catholic worker house following Dorothy Day and Peter Morin, we work for justice and equality and embracing those who are in need, and the indigenous people are at the top of our list. I'm happy to say that on our board, on our Catholic worker board, we have a Apache Comanche member. He's a little blend of both nations, and we're proud to say he's a member of our board and has a lot to contribute. But right now, Bob and everybody listening, something wonderful is happening. We're raising consciousness worldwide, nationwide, and beyond worldwide to the history of the indigenous people. Whereas we have abused them and justified it, now we're really questioning that. And I think there's a big turnaround in terms of reparations and understanding. And for example, just a little example, whenever we make a talk, whenever I give a sermon, I like to start off by saying, we are on Ho-Chunk land. We acknowledge that we are on the land of someone else's land. I had a very shocking little exchange with our secretary. I said to her, Victoria, what do you feel like when you realize that you are living on stolen land? And she just stopped in her tracks and she said, very sad. because it's and this is the truth. So we are standing on stolen lands. And as I look at, I'm a Catholic. I am very proud of our Catholic legacy. We have done so many great things, but we've also done some really bad things, sins, mistakes, abuses over the centuries, and that's part of our story. And we have to admit that and take the accountability. So right now, as you mentioned, for the Pope to come out and repudiate officially that papal doctrine of discovery. By the way, my friend who's got kind of a wry sense of humor, he said, we use the expression, that's a bunch of bull. Well, this is a papal bull. And so I look at it as a bunch of bull. But it's important to say that, Bob, as you observed, that the doctrine was really pronounced by the Catholic Church, by the Vatican, and then it was taken up by the United States Supreme Court, and they used it all the way up until modern times. And thank God it is now being repudiated. And we got to make it every chance we get from our pulpits, in our classes, in our public meetings, to acknowledge that we need to make reparations and totally demythologize this doctrine of discovery.
Yeah, thank you. It's just amazing to me, in the United States and in North America, the expression of those that took children away from Native Americans and brought them into boarding schools, Christian boarding schools. They stood on a kind of a motto, if you will, kill the Indian, save the man. And so kept them from speaking their own language, made it illegal for them to speak their own language, to exercise their culture and their spirituality, whatever that might be. Nothing could be further from the word dignity and human dignity. And the opportunity for us to all see each other on our own spiritual path, whether that's through a structured religion or not, or as Native Americans and many Native Indigenous around the world have other paths to acknowledging creation, acknowledging oneness, acknowledging that which is greater than us as individuals and part that we play in that. So this is very significant, and it's going to be significant to see how legal systems around the world now deal with this, because as you said, in the United States, as recently as just maybe 10 years ago, this doctrine of discovery was used by the Supreme Court to rule one way compared to another way out of favor with Native American tribes. And so, this will be very, very interesting to see how legal systems now adjust, which they tend to do very slowly. So what you got there in your hand? Got a book?
Well, Christopher Columbus, we've always hailed him as a champion. He's got his day, but slowly he's being looked upon in a different way. Christopher Columbus, not so much as a great conqueror and explorer and discoverer, but as really a man who abused and brought was a key factor in bringing slavery to our continent. And so he's really more of a disgrace than a hero. I mentioned that consciousness is being erased with regard to this issue. For example, we have a study group, and we chose for our current reading this book called Becoming Kin. It says it all. It's a process of understanding that we're all brothers and sisters, children of God. And it was written by a very distinguished woman, indigenous writer. And so our eyes are being opened to the reality of our need for teaching and spreading the good news, and maybe coming back to a level playing field as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, opportunity to give land acknowledgement in public meetings, whether that's at the pulpit, in public gatherings, speeches, classrooms, and in individual conversation is one small, but it brings awareness and
So-
it helps to advance the consciousness, as you say.
So Bob, as a conclusion to this nice cup of Joe here today, I would invite all of our listeners to check up. It's easy to do. You can go to your computer and find out what land you are on. So for example, here we are on Ho Chunk land in Wisconsin, at our house right here in Casa Esther, and we want to acknowledge that and pay tribute to the legacy that really we honor the people, and we're thankful that we were able to live on their land. And God forbid that we have to say it was stolen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Well, that's a great idea. We'll put a link in this video for people to link right away to a website where they can look and see what Indigenous land they currently live on. So great conversation, Father Joe. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to next time we have a chance to have a cup and have a chat.
Namaste. Bye.
Namaste. May peace prevail on earth.